Welcome to Flying Upstream, the podcast where we uncover the choices, practices, and wisdom that defy mainstream conventions. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Louisa. And together we're here to illuminate the alternative paths that have shaped human experiences through the ages. In each episode, we'll examine ways to move beyond societal norms. We're passionate about how timeless wisdom and unique lifestyle choices can foster healthier, sustainable, and enriching lives.
Join us as we navigate, challenge, and celebrate the beauty and insight of walking the road less traveled. If you've ever felt like you're flying north for the winter while everyone else is flying south, you've found your flock.
Welcome back, Free Spirits. Today's episode is one that no matter what angle you look at it from is not what you were expecting.
That's right, Free Spirits. Today we're joined by Leslie Zemenek, a hand analyst who helps people discover their life purpose and embrace healthy selfishness. Leslie is also a soul plan practitioner and a dedicated guide on the journey to self-discovery and fulfillment.
With over 30 years of experience in hand analysis, Leslie is committed to understanding the human soul and uses past life astrology and Kabalistic numerology to analyze a person's life purpose. She focuses on helping her clients see what is unique about themselves, then to own their genius instead of trying to fit themselves into a culturally acceptable box.
Lately, Leslie's focus is on teaching her clients to be more selfish based on her belief that it's crucial to put yourself first in order to make a difference in the world.
Dear listener, get ready to be challenged, inspired, and maybe even a little bit selfish. Leslie, welcome to the Flying Upstream podcast.
Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited about our conversation.
Nice, we are too.
So let's get started defining selfishness. Let's unpack that term. Leslie, can you differentiate between healthy selfishness and narcissism, especially in the context of your work with clients?
Absolutely. You probably have heard this saying that if you have to ask yourself if you're a narcissist, you're not one. So there is always that. But even on a deeper level, the work I do with my clients is really about identity. In so many of the ancient traditions, the idea of self was about being at the center, at your own center. In the temple at Delphi, at Apollo's temple, is carved the words, know thyself. And I can't imagine greater wisdom than that. Because if you don't know who you are at your core and are really solid in it, you can't make decisions for yourself. You can't know what you want. You can't say yes and no when it's appropriate. But if you wanted to think about it further, you could also put a dash between the F and the I. And think about it that way, selfish. And even that isn't perfect because sometimes we use the ish as meaning and all the way, solid at your center.
You mentioned learning about selfishness through your divorce. Can you elaborate on how that experience shaped your current approach?
It actually shaped it in a big way. When I was getting divorced, it was someone else, a friend, somebody who was observing what was going on in my life, who suggested I look up covert narcissism. But when I started to look at it, I realized that's exactly what was going on, that I had been married for 15 years to a covert narcissist, someone who is disguised as the world's nicest guy. When I got out, to me, to keep looking at that situation really wasn't going to move me forward. I was about to turn 60 and I thought, oh my gosh, all those years I could have been doing something differently, having someone who really cared about me. So I decided I really needed to look at myself and figure out, how did I end up in this situation? What did I do, or what didn't I do, or wasn't I knowing that let me be in that situation for 15 years and have this person mistreat me? So I didn't want to become a victim. I wanted to become more fully who I was, which I was already doing for my clients. So for me, I was ashamed that I hadn't done it for myself. So I really dug into what it means to be selfish after leaving this person who was the other definition of selfish.
Oh, I love that explanation. I love that. Being able to look at it from both sides, like selfish on both extremes thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. because I had clearly lost my identity in the marriage. I had forgotten who I was. I had lost myself. And I think that's not uncommon. People lose themselves in so many situations and for so many different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. Self-care is a pretty popular term and a popular concept these days. And I'm wondering how your concept of being selfish goes beyond just taking care of yourself, beyond just looking in the mirror and saying, I need to change.
It's much deeper than that because I think there's some problems with that because we all sometimes look at ourselves in the mirror and go, oh, I need to lose weight because so and so isn't going to find me attractive anymore, or I need to eat healthier because my doctor says so. And so self care, it's a wonderful thing. Don't get me wrong, but it's if you're not really clear about who you are and what you want, you might also be doing that for the wrong reasons. So when I talk about selfish, it's beyond self-care. I like to think of it as 3 stages. Self-knowledge, getting to know who you are at the deepest level. And that goes to what you said in the intro about not fitting yourself into a cultural box or even a familial box or a friend box, any box. So self-knowledge at the deepest level, self-acceptance, which has to come after the knowledge, where you are saying, yes, I'm not only okay with it, it's great. And then moving into the third stage, which is self-love, which is really loving who you are. And to me, once you get through those 3 stages, what you find is this incredible sense of inner peace. And you get to say yes to yourself, and you get to have good boundaries, and your self-esteem goes up, and your self-confidence, and all the selves. They're there. All of them, any ones you can think about, all the positive ones. And what you end up is being in control of your life. Nobody can manipulate you. They can't hurt you because you're just okay with who you are.
I love
More than
that.
okay.
Yeah, I love that. I can relate to that very deeply. I do think that's very valuable. And I love that you broke it down into the 3, the self-knowledge, the self-acceptance, and the self-love, because I know that I talk a lot about the importance of self-love in my own journey. And it's interesting though, the way that you broke it down, because I had never actually thought about that, but it is true. There has to be self-knowledge. You have to know who you are first, and then you have to accept yourself in order to be able to love yourself. And can you delve a little deeper into the fingerprint pattern and how it indicates a soul mission requiring selfishness?
So there is a fingerprint pattern. So when I work with people and read their hands, I look at their fingerprints first. And there's 4 kinds of fingerprints and 4 pathways, basically love, service, peace, and wisdom. And I rank them to see which one people are on. But there is a particular one in the service pathway where all 10 fingerprints are the same, which means that the person is here to be good at the thing they're also born the worst at. And there's a nickname for this. It's called the lone tree on the plain. And it means this person is here to do service in the world in their most unique form possible in a way that only they can do it. And which is why they're called the lone tree, because they're doing it without any community support. Nobody's actually written the map for them before they arrived. There's no previous person ever who's ever existed who's done it their way. So they are the ultimate individualist. And in order to become adept at bringing their service to the world, whatever way in which they can serve, they must first go into that place of complete self-absorption to know who they are, so that they can bring whatever gift it is to the world and use it to make the world better. And without knowing what that is, without that whole journey of understanding how they're supposed to do it, they can end up in circles. And ultimately, the point of service is to do it with joy, not because you feel like it's the right thing to do or you have to do it. So that's sacrifice or obligation. We're talking about serving because it brings you joy. That fingerprint pattern is rare. And interestingly enough, I have seen that very same fingerprint pattern on the hands of narcissists. So there's no guarantee that the person will get it right. they can go in either extreme, to that place of pure selfless joy in doing the thing that they love, or they can go to the other end and become completely selfish, with no service to the world at all, serving only themselves.
So you mentioned some of the clients that you've worked with who've benefited from becoming more selfish. I'm curious if you could share some specific examples and how it has changed their lives.
I can think of one gentleman in particular who happens to have the lone tree on the plane fingerprint pattern. And I do most of my work remote, so people send me their handprints and fingerprints. I have a system I have for getting them from them. And the minute I saw his hands, I said, "Oh, lone tree, this is going to be fun." So he gets on the call with me, and before I even can say anything about what I know about his hands, the first thing out of his mouth is, "I've always been told I'm too selfish." And I started laughing hysterically because I knew what his path was supposed to be. And I said, "You have no idea." I said, "You are supposed to become more selfish." His gift is music. He is an incredibly talented musician. And when I say incredibly talented, I'm talking like he should be famous type talented. And he actually had in the 70s and 80s played at folk festivals with some of the greats who told him that he was of their caliber. And yet all he could hear in his head was his mother's voice saying, "Don't brag, don't be selfish." And so it was stopping him. Once we had a few sessions and I talked to him about this whole concept, he got it right away. And he eliminated people in his life who were holding him back. He started having concerts, more concerts. He started writing more music. And a lot of the words in his compositions are really beautiful and encouraging. And to me, I could see uplifting, and if they need to be heard by many people in the world. And he admits to me, he tells me all the time that it has transformed his life.
That's amazing to hear. One of the things that I wonder, you talked a little bit about like how all your client, all they heard was their mother's voice. And that brings up a point that I think a lot of people experience, or where a lot of people's minds go when they think about being selfish, with regards to the dangers associated with embracing that selfishness. Are there any that people should be looking out for? And how do you ensure that your clients don't become inconsiderate of others?
I can't guarantee anything because people are going to go off and do what they want to do after they work with me. There's no guarantees, of course. And I have actually had a few clients come to me who already were very self-absorbed. And I don't generally work with those people.
Hey there, free spirits. Here on the Flying Upstream podcast, we're all about forging your own path. But sometimes even the most unconventional journey can make you feel stuck. There's a missing piece, a deeper purpose you haven't quite grasped.
That's right, Louisa. Many of us crave that feeling of being aligned, living a life that truly resonates with our souls. But what if I told you there's a way to break free from the limitations holding you back?
That's right, Kristen. And I help seekers experience profound spiritual breakthroughs.
Spiritual breakthroughs? That sounds interesting, Louisa. Tell us more.
Absolutely. Through my exclusive program, I'll guide you on a journey of self-discovery using the powerful practice of soul reading. Imagine uncovering the root cause of your energy blockages, releasing self-doubt that's held you back, and awakening the wisdom that lies within.
Whoa, a soul reading that reveals the root cause of your blocks? That's a pretty unconventional approach.
You could say that. In just 7 weeks, you'll gain a personalized roadmap to living a life aligned with your deepest desires, the life you were truly meant to live on your unconventional path.
That sounds like exactly what some of our listeners might need to break free and embrace their authentic selves.
Absolutely. So, if you are ready to step into your power and claim the life you deserve, don't wait. For a limited time, I am offering a free awakening session. Text the word awaken to 617-299-9321 to claim a free soul awakening session with me.
So ditch the script and write your own story of fulfillment. Text awaken to 617-299-9321 and start your adventure today.
At this point in my career, pick and choose who I want to work with. Most of the people I work with are truly good-hearted, and they often are people pleasers or have little or no experience with boundaries. And honestly, I don't know that those types of people ultimately we're doing is developing skills, but deep down, they're still givers. And I really think there's very little danger of them becoming um, terrible, selfish, inconsiderate, horrible people. But at the same time, the beauty of this to me is that when you become sure in your center, it actually makes you a nicer person because you have no reason to resent someone else. You have no reason to covet what someone else has and be jealous. You have no reason to judge other people because you're just like in that place of peace and being okay with who you are. So you're not comparing yourself, which is where I think a lot of that comes from. And on a metaphysical level, the idea is that when you make this available for yourself, it then becomes available for other people as well. You're setting an example. And what I see is as clients start to do this work, is they start to almost literally energetically shine. And it's hard to be around somebody like that unless you're really unhappy yourself and not be uplifted by it. I do think it makes it available for other people. And that's why I believe it, one person at a time, it can help towards healing the greater world.
I love that. Leslie, so you mentioned selfishness can also lead to attracting the right partner. And I'm curious if you can make that connection for us too.
Oh, yeah, that's what I did.
Aw.
Okay, so there's Louisa, you'd probably understand this, have heard this. So when you love yourself, you're teaching the rest of the world how to love you. If you don't love yourself, you'll attract all kinds of people who will take advantage of that. And besides the idea of shining, of being how confidence is definitely very attractive, it's really important to me that when you know yourself, like I said before, and you know what you want, you'll know what's a no. You'll say, I'm not going to allow somebody to treat me that way. This is non-negotiable in my relationships. And it goes not just for your intimate partners, but also friendships and even family members. You can start to say no to the things that are not healthy, the things that are toxic. But in terms of attracting a partner, the more you have just love in your space, in your energy space, you become a love magnet. Even animals see it. You can tell, like dogs who normally aren't very friendly will even go right up to a person who's got that energy, and their owners will go, wow, that never happens. But it is absolutely true. It's that whole idea of how do I want to be treated? What do I want? And the other part about it is that when you are whole within yourself, you can have a healthy relationship because you're not needy. You can be complete within yourself. And so you can be in a relationship where you're both individuals and there's this space between you so that you can respect each other and support each other without having to change each other or become someone else for the relationship. And it can be really healthy.
Yeah, that speaks to me of balance, right? What you said about attracting a partner, it's like vibration attracts like vibration. So if you're balanced, then you're going to attract others who are balanced. And then that allows you to have a balanced relationship. From your perspective, a balance between self and others, and how do you help clients find that balance within the concept of selfishness?
We don't live on a planet alone. So you're always going to be interacting with people day in and day out. It's pretty hard to be a hermit in this world. I guess it's possible, but you still have to go get your groceries.
Yeah.
It's that whole thing about when you're okay with yourself, you get to be kinder to people. You get to be more understanding of someone having a bad day because you know what that's like. You've been there because none of us are born saints. So we've all been through some of that somewhere, but it's the empathy that comes from that I think is really important. And again, I mentioned earlier about not working with people who are coming to me old, already self-absorbed. I'm not sure I'm the right person to help those people.
Yeah.
To me, they're not looking for what I have to offer. And I truly believe that when you have that sense of peacefulness because you're okay with who you are, there's not a whole lot of chance you're going to not want to be around other people and be mean to them. And we all have bad days. It's going to happen. We're not saints yet. We're
Yeah.
not until we move on to our next incarnation and don't come back anymore. We're always going to have a day where we're not perfect. It's not linear. That once you get there, you'll never have a few steps backwards.
I know I have my share of imperfect days. And I'm curious, Leslie, what some of the challenges are that your clients face when they're trying to become more selfish. I know you have a method that you guide them through, but what are some of the tough places that people fall into?
Oh, one of the common things I come up against are with parents. I can't tell you how many times I sit down with parents and I say, why aren't you living your dream? Whether it's like to take up art or to write a book or to open a business. And I'll start asking them the questions of what's stopping you. And they'll say, I'm doing this for my daughter or I'm doing this for my kids. And I have to point out to them that what they're actually doing is setting an example for their children to repeat that pattern of sacrifice. And what they should be doing is setting an example for their children that it's okay to follow your dream, that they deserve to get that dream met, that they're smart enough and deserving enough and capable enough. And so, what I do a lot is reframe what people tell me as their excuses. And I flip it on their head. I talk about Goldilocks to them. It's okay, here's the one extreme, here's the other extreme. Somewhere in the middle is you're just right, and let's find that.
And I think that's very common, especially in our society. I think as parents, we are conditioned to that word sacrifice, to sacrifice just about pretty close to, if not everything, once we have children. So I love that you shared that. Can you offer some practical tips for our listeners who want to explore some healthy selfishness in their own lives?
When you meet a challenge, it's not there to stop you. This is one thing I tell my clients all the time. I work with them all the time. You're actually making the most progress towards becoming who you are when you're working on the challenges. So don't let the challenges stop you. Ask yourself big questions or get someone to help you ask questions. Ask yourself little questions. Why is this stopping me? What would it look like if I took a baby step? And that's another thing I talk about a lot is taking a baby step. Any step is step forward. So the smallest step you can take, if you're afraid, if you're worried about what's going to happen, just take the smallest possible step. Don't get caught up in looking at the whole long road ahead. Take that first step, and then the next step gets easier. So those are some of the things I work with my clients on. The flipping things on their head and saying, what would it look like if instead of this, the opposite were true? That's another question we work with. What if the opposite were true? Because a lot of times the biggest challenge people have, if the opposite were true, it enhances the beauty of what they came to be and the dream they came to live. So it's not random, the challenges that we go through. I don't think they're random. I think they're meant to take us forward. It's about learning to become a little bit comfortable with risk, taking a personal risk. And that's what I help my clients with. I do it, if I'm not doing it with them directly, I will sometimes give them journaling exercises and things like that.
That's amazing, Leslie. Really good advice. I appreciate it on a personal level as someone who's going through some obstacles right now. It's a good reminder. Thank you so much for sharing all of this and for being on our podcast today. If listeners want to learn more about how to harness selfishness and learn about their divine spark, where can they find you?
I have a website, www.lesliezemenek.com. And of course, you probably won't know how to spell that. So I hope you guys are going to put that in the show notes.
We
And
will.
I'm also on Instagram, and I have some nice little pieces that I put up there, both videos and posts. I've started a blog on Medium. It's in the early stages, but you can find me there as well.
And is that with your same name as well, Leslie
Same
Zemenek?
name as well, yes.
Perfect. We can link those. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thanks for being our guest, Leslie. Appreciate it. All right, free spirits, that's all the time we have for today on Flying Upstream.
We hope this episode sparked your curiosity and ignited a desire to explore the extraordinary paths less traveled.
Even when the current feels strong, a whole world of possibilities awaits.
We'll see you next time on the other side of mainstream.
So keep questioning, keep challenging, and most importantly, keep flying upstream.